You're listening to Love Talk Live with the relationship expert, Jaime Bronstein, only on LA Talk Radio.
Hello, and welcome to Love Talk Live. Today, I have with me the Pottses, Jim and Brenda Potts. They've been married for 24 years. Everybody's in store for lots of insightful, exciting, inspirational advice from them as a married couple. And they both, besides for being married, they have other identities. Can you believe that? Other identities. So, Jim, would you like to tell us kind of what you do? He also has a radio show on
LA Talk
station.
Radio.
Yep.
Listen up with Jim Potts every Sundays at 3 o'clock, live show. And the basic premise of my show has to do with domestic terrorism. I was a former terrorist investigator with the LA County Sheriff's Department. I was on their intelligence team. And now, since my retirement, I spend a lot of time doing active shooter training. I've done training from all the way up from Washington all the way over to Miami. I've trained over probably, I don't know, about 25,000 people now.
Wow.
Businesses, et cetera, with that. So I really enjoy doing that. So the purpose of my show was to reach out to people to tell them how to be safe. We'll get into my books in a minute, but yeah, that's what the show was all about. And besides that, I also have another company called Potts and Associates. And Potts and Associates, I've been in business for 39 years, assisting employers in all aspects of human resources. I've got staff of about 14 people that are very knowledgeable, including 3 sons that work for us as well. And one of my associates has been with me for 39 years. So basically, our job is to keep employers out of trouble. You know, try to
Always
keep
good
them out
thing.
of that court system.
Yeah.
And I'm a published author.
So, you're a philanthropist also, helping people. And you're a published author. What are these books that maybe people want to watch?
I've had 3 books, actually, that have been published. The first book was published in, let's see, it would have been 2008. It was called Right to Counsel. And that had to do with when I was in law school, I was asked by one of my professors to assist him in a case where he had been how do I want to put this? Well, the attorney, the firm was appointed by Justice Rose Byrd, because in California, anytime you get the death penalty, it's an automatic appeal to the California Supreme Court. And my professor asked me to assist him with that.
Wow.
And the gentleman had been convicted, and our job was to, in fact, find out, you know, if there's any way to overturn the sentence, so to speak. But the book is really about how, once I found out what he had done, that I was going through this turmoil because the acts that he had committed had to do with girls, okay, and murder. Let's put it that way, kidnapping and murders. And, I mean, I was an Eagle Scout. I mean, I was an altar boy. So from my perspective, it was, how can I assist somebody like this? So the book really goes through that kind of turmoil. So it's still on Amazon. Second book came out in, let's see, 2014. That's called Walking on Eggshells, Managing Minorities in the Workplace. And then my third book just came out about 2 weeks ago, called Domestic Terrorism Safety Tips. And all 3 of them are on Amazon. And we've sold right now about 1,000 books in the last 30 days. With that one. So that one has gone very well also.
That's amazing.
So that gives you a rough idea about who I am. All right.
I'm
So-
grateful to be in your presence. These are these are major people, and not even, you know, I it makes me the happiest when I'm around people that are doing good work, like major successful in that way. You know, not like, oh my God, you're a celebrity, but being around people that are successful at helping people, right?
Yes.
And
'Cause it
we're
makes
firm
difference.
believers in that. We believe in that, no doubt about it.
Good. And Brenda, I know you guys work together.
We do, and it's the type of work that we do in assisting employers really brings a lot to the small to medium-sized businesses that's out there trying to really produce a service or a product, and nobody's keeping up with the laws, nobody's gone to HR school, and that's where we come in. We're their resource to make sure they make the right decisions. And that's why some of the clients that Jim has had, they've been with him the full 39 years he's been in his industry.
Wow, which is unheard of.
Well,
Okay.
you offer good service, you know, that's the bottom line.
You must be
I've
good
been
people.
fortunate. I've been fortunate.
So, two things I want to mention. We met this summer, so LA Talk Radio had an event for all of the different hosts to meet, because it's kind of like when I worked in private practice in a group practice.
Yeah.
We never actually saw the other therapist,
Okay.
but so it reminded me of that. So all of the different radio show hosts, we all got together and we got to know each other and network, and we, being on each other's shows and just learn from each other. So that's one thing I wanted to mention, how we met. We're going to get into how they met. And also, this man right here is pretty funny. Because when we arrived today, he was sitting in here, and he said, the first thing that came out of his mouth, he said, "Is Brenda supposed to be here?" And tiny heart attack, not a big deal. Tiny heart attack. I'm a go with the flow person. I believe everything works out the way it's supposed to. My response was, "How far away do you live?" He said an hour. And I go over here. I was just
panicking,
taking my notes. And then I was thinking she could call in on the phone. He goes, "Just kidding." But here's the thing. I already loved him when I first met him, but I love people with a sense of humor and just fun in life.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to hear about your relationship. Speaking of fun in life, right?
Well, actually, I think that was one of the things. But I'll let Brenda respond to that. About one thing she liked about me was my what?
Sense of humor. And the fact that when I first met him, I'm shy, but when I first met him, he's at the cashier desk and he's saying, "What's your name? Are they treating you good today?" And I'm like, look at this guy. He's not afraid to talk to anyone. And so really it just created an environment where I sort of admired that of him.
So how did you meet? You said something about a cashier counter. How did you meet?
We met through a mutual client. She knew that we had an organization and she thought Jim would be a great speaker. And so she said, "Call on this day at this time." I did. She shoved the phone into Jim's hands and we talked. He came out and made a presentation. And we sort of, started talking to each other, and then we started working together, and then it turned into a business, then a personal relationship.
Well, now let's tell the whole story, Brenda.
From the man's
When
point
she
of
said,
view?
no, it's just that when she said I made a presentation, she was correct.
Okay.
I was expecting to go up there and sign up her association as a client.
Okay.
And she sat there and she listened to everything I had to say, but the bottom line was, and she didn't sign up with me as a client at that time. She wanted me to be a speaker. So I was there thinking one thing. But I was able to sell her later. Let's put it that way. So here she is now all these years later from that perspective. So
Because you sweetened her up.
Excuse me?
You sweetened her. You
I didn't have to say. I didn't have to sweeten her up. She's already sweet. Okay, that's what attracted me to her. All right, and it was a mutual client that did that. And years later, the client would say, "Well, I knew you two would get together." They're like, "What are you talking about? That's not what. That's not what. This was all business when we first got
Yes.
together." And it was interesting. Brenda had a skill set that I felt that I lacked, and that's really been kind of the basis of our relationship, because Brenda was the type of the person, she's the behind the scenes person. Mm-hmm. She's very coordinated and things of that nature. I have a very, very busy schedule. I do a lot of speaking engagements, and I have staff that helps me with that, but Brenda's there also. And so it's a matter of a lot of coordination. Well, she likes doing all the setup, for the speeches and things of that nature. And plus I put her in the front row because sometimes I have a limited amount of time to speak, and Brenda will be there waving, the time is almost up. Time is almost up. So her function with the company on a day-by-day basis really carries through to that, because she works with the staff to make sure they have all the latest technology, everything about the office. She's there for all of that, so that's, extremely helpful for me. I'm busy doing the business itself. Mm-hmm. Brenda's there making sure that the business is there from a logistics standpoint. The bills are being paid, the monies are being deposited. I mean, she's handling all of those kind of different things. So she stays very busy.
And this could be inspirational to couples out there, because there are a bunch of couples, I've met a lot of them recently, who work together. Mm-hmm. And some people, when they hear that at first, they judge and they say, "Oh, that could never work." But it actually does, and it actually works pretty beautifully in the situations that I've experienced.
Listen, we get that same thing. I'll get when I'm out there. I play golf. I'm out there sometimes with different people you play golf with or buddies that you talk to. Man, how can you work with your wife? I'm like, huh? What do you mean? They said because I could never work with my wife or this or that. And that's not all of them, okay? But I'm just saying that they have a tendency to say, how does that work out? Because there's a lot of clash and things of that nature. But Brenda and I, we have our different responsibilities, basically, our strengths and weaknesses. And I know my weaknesses. So Brenda fills that gap very easily, And, my strengths are the fact that I like getting out speaking, doing the job that I do and things of that nature. And, and
And he's also a rainmaker.
Ooh.
well, that part is true, too. I am definitely you know what a rainmaker is, don't you? Do you know what a rainmaker
Yes.
is? Okay. A rainmaker, brings in, the new client base and everything. So, it's the juggling sometimes of the personal life along with the business life. And that's where I think some of the stress and strain can come in relationships. So, Brenda works very hard. I mean, as hard as I work, I told you Brenda's behind the scenes thing. So she has a lot of work that she actually does behind the scenes. And there's times when I have to tell her, turn off the computer, time to go to bed. It's 1 o'clock and I wake up and she's on the computer working on
That's
things.
me. If you're ever bored,
You know,
one in the morning,
I'm just telling you.
call
I mean,
me.
I'm an early riser. I'm up every day at 5 a.m. and I am working on things as well. So she's the late person. I'm the early person from that perspective. But the juggling the household, as an example, in terms of our relationship, is very easy.
I think the other thing I was going to mention, though, the one thing I liked about him, especially in the beginning of our relationship, is that when we were really working, he says, listen, we got to go. We got to go to Vegas. We got to go somewhere.
I love it.
And that worked out great because I would have never stopped.
I love it.
It's actually funny that she should say that because let me take you back then for a moment, okay? And, she is so focused on the work that she does that she loses track of time sometimes. So when we first started dating, I invited her to my place for dinner. And now I've been cooking. I'm the cook in the family, so you should know that part too, all right? But anyway, so it was slated for 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock, no Brenda. 7:30, no Brenda. 8 o'clock, okay, what's going on? And now this is new, okay, in terms of the relationship. I get on there, and I think back in those days it was the pager. So I had the pager. And, she calls me back, what's up? I said, well, you were supposed to be over here tonight at 7 o'clock. Well, what time is it? I said, well, Brenda, it's 8 o'clock. It's like, so she was so focused on the work that she was doing, she had to stop. But she's always been that way. And so I couldn't hold that against her. Besides, I was still trying to date and stay on her good side, so I couldn't get her so upset. But, so
When you're
really
at a
stays
client's office, sometimes it's not as easy to just walk away. But yes, that's true.
And you're
That
at
did
home, you're like,
happen.
the steak is burning.
Well, I'm the one that, we always laugh about it. I'm the one that's doing the cooking.
I love it.
Oh,
Brenda
yes.
is outside, as she would say, you what?
I tell people Jim will be inside with the apron on and I'll be outside on the tractor because I love to garden. That's
does.
my soul food, gardening.
Oh.
She does gardening. I mean, she's got our place looking like an arboretum out there.
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
she does really a good job with all of that. I'll, do the repairs, take out the trash, do those kind of things. But it really works out well. I don't know a lot about gardening. Don't need to know about gardening, but I love to cook. So she's never going to starve to death, okay, with me, as long as we're together. And in terms of running a household, it's very simple. Brenda gets to make all the decisions regarding when and where we're going on vacation.
Happy wife, happy life.
Well, we got that.
Yes.
Oh, she bought me one of those little placards that's in my office at the house.
Got that established.
That's right. So when and where we're going on vacation, what color the house is going to be, what kind of furniture we're buying, and I get to make all the decisions whether or not we're going to invade these foreign countries. So,
Whoa.
so she makes all the decisions from a certain standpoint.
She has the fun ones.
She gets the fun ones because look, here's the deal. The deal is that, and I'll even talk to my buddies about it. And women are a lot better normally at the furniture, what color the wall should be, how it should be decorated. My sons always laugh and say, "Dad, it wasn't a home until Brenda moved in."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Was it, Dad? Remember, you had a TV on top of a box. You had this old raggedy couch. You had that. I'm like, well, I was a bachelor.
You need the woman's touch.
Needed the woman's touch, and she has definitely done the woman's touch.
So, let's get into some of the fun questions that our viewers just want to know. They're on the tip of their seats. So, how did you know when you first met? And usually the answer because I've been interviewing couples for my documentary, usually the answer is different from the man and the woman, and it's always interesting to hear what it is. So I'm guessing they're not going to have the same answer. How did you know that you were in love? And what does being in love mean to you? Because I feel like there are people out there maybe that have never been in love, or they thought that they were in love, but sometimes when they hear the answer from a couple that truly is in love and has the longevity of the relationship, it's just eye-opening. So I would love to know, and they would love to know.
Okay. I think that as I started working with him, I saw how dedicated he was to his profession. I saw how dedicated he was to his sons. And I saw him as a man of honor, the type that would open the door, do all the things that you grew up with when you were younger. And sometimes that's lost today. So he appreciates a woman's presence, and I think that was critical. And also the fact that he, I think it was one of the talk show hosts said, he is the type of man who would swim across a pool filled with alligators to bring you a glass of lemonade. And I think that was it.
I just got the chills.
Me too. I've got a little tear.
Aww.
At any rate, I guess the difference is for me, my mother, I want to go back to values for a second because I think that's what's important. The values that she's talking about are the values that were instilled in us. I mean, I told you already I was an altar boy. I mean, I was an Eagle Scout. My mother was the type that made sure all of her sons, there was 3 of us for the longest time till my baby sister
And
came
you
along.
have 3. Okay. So you
No,
have 3
and
boys.
we have 3. But yeah, then my younger sister came along, and my younger brother. But my mother taught us all, and my father too, but more so my mother in terms of values, I would say the social aspects, the social graces is the word that I'm looking for. I mean, my mother taught us how to eat with a knife and fork type of thing, and I can tell you to this day, I can eat chicken right down to the bone with a knife and a fork. We did
Whoa.
not pick up chicken in our household.
That's a good mama.
And my mother, oh yeah, she taught us how to, respect women in terms of opening doors for them. You don't walk through the door first. You walk through the door after they walk through the door. You open up the car door and things of that nature. And taught the sons to do the same thing. I mean, those are some basic skills that I think that people get away from. In Brenda's case, when she met me, those were the things that I did. I mean, I did those things automatically, so it wasn't something that I had to pretend to do.
It was authentic.
It was authentic,
Yes.
and I think that's what she's saying. So I think that when you
And
have
it lasted. It wasn't just for the
Oh,
first
yeah.
2
Right.
days.
Oh,
No,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
him.
And I think that sometimes, these days when you start talking about people respecting each other and disrespecting each other, I think some of those values have been lost out there. And I think for any couple to succeed, it was an old expression, what you did to get me is what you got to do to keep me. And I think that that's very important. And that's the relationship we have. We didn't change from the things that we did when we first met each other. My attraction to Brenda, basically, I'll just be blunt. Brenda was totally supportive almost from day one. I mean, when I was dating her, I was also, besides doing my own 9 to 5, I was also teaching at the University of Phoenix.
Oh my
And
God.
I was teaching, 4 nights a week there sometimes. And then with the sheriff's department, I was working on weekends. So, you're still juggling the relationship type of thing, but we still found our time and everything. But Brenda never, ever said, spend more time with me or do this, because those were the things I had wanted to do. So therefore, she was supportive of those. Past relationships, I didn't have that, because you talked about the difference between the
Yeah,
relationships.
yeah.
See, I think that that's sometimes what drives people. So the message that I would send out there would be that, show that support mechanism, because support's very important. We all have our strengths and our weaknesses, and you're supposed to kind of shore each other up. And, home is where you go to get away from it all. Getting home and having to go through a separate battle at home is problematic.
Oh,
I mean,
no,
that's
yeah.
just so, and Brenda and I in all of these years have never had a major argument.
I love it. My parents don't fight. They've been married for 48 years.
Yeah, see, that's what makes it stick. You were talking about how, like tips. Brenda and I were talking, and we've talked about it in the past, but we talked about it somewhat on the way over here as well, in terms of picking and choosing your battles. See, for both of us, this is a second marriage. So in a first marriage, everything is a big deal. Well, then after a while, you decide, you know what? None of this is important. So it would be interesting for people out there to understand that, look, when you're in a relationship, first marriage or not, just understand that the other person has feelings as well. And
empathy, very important.
There
Compassion.
it is. You respect those feelings. And did we have any conflict? At all? It wasn't conflicts. It was adjustments. So let me give you an example.
That's good.
Brenda would turn around and, the toothpaste tube. Now, toothpaste is toothpaste. Brenda at one point came to me and said, when you finish using the toothpaste, can you roll it up or push the toothpaste all up toward
Some
the
people
front?
do that,
So now
yes.
you got the fat part at the front and the flat part at the back. And I'm like, what are you talking about? She goes, yeah, it should be neater. I said, it's toothpaste. Okay, what's the big deal, right?
Squeeze the tube.
Because I just squeezed the tube and it's no big deal. Okay, so we let it go. And then, I don't know, 2 weeks later, subject came up again. And it's like, okay, let's analyze this. I'm going to figure this out. So I did. It's very simple. Now, there was something we didn't let get into a major argument. So how did I resolve it? She now has her separate tube of toothpaste.
I was going to say.
Exactly. It works.
It works. Yeah, it's not something to debate about. Now, you've got your tube, because we have double sinks in the bathroom. Everybody has their side because she's got the makeup and stuff. So here's her tube.
Do you throw the tube up until now? Would you throw the tube back to the other sink?
No, we don't. We don't exhibit any of those kind of things with each other because those things can be deemed to be disrespectful. So we don't really raise our voices. We don't do any of those things. When we have a disagreement in terms of I want the wall white, she wants the wall blue, I look at it and say, okay, Brenda is very good. I can't see this vision, but she's very good at seeing the end result when it comes to things like decorating.
Right.
So I'll just say, you know what? Let's go ahead and try it to be blue and end of story. And as usual, it's finished. It looks great. So once you have those kind of confidences in the other person's strengths, as an example, what's there to debate about?
I just want to say something about the toothpaste. Because first of all, the thought that comes to me, that's just extremely endearing that for 23 and a half maybe years or 24 years minus a week ago, I don't know what's happened, that you guys thought that you wanted to share toothpaste. And you guys are the second couple that has had this realization, oh my God, we can have our own toothpaste and exist like that. But there's something about it that's like a metaphor for that you guys just want to share things. It's toothpaste, but you didn't realize you could have your own until.
No, we don't share toothbrushes. Let's make that clear.
That's good. That's good.
That's right. But the emphasis
Do you guys
is
brush
toothpaste.
each other teeth? So another thing that I just wanted to say was, I love you used the word support. You said that she supports everything.
Totally.
But also, just what's coming to me is that you guys you respect each other so much, and that you found a lady who is independent. Because what I'm gathering is from what you were saying is that there are other women in this world who would say, you're working so much, like I need me time, I need you to hang out with me, and that never is helpful. But you are confident enough in yourself to know that he loves you regardless, and you're not, I don't like the word needy. I don't even know if there's another word for it, but you're not, like I said, you're confident in yourself, you're secure in yourself, and you guys have your own lives, but yet it is so commingled as well.
But our lives are also dictated by our past experiences. Now, sometimes people don't have those. Sometimes, when my friends and I are talking, you say, yeah, we both been in boot camp, meaning that we've been through a prior marriage. The guys talking, not necessarily Brenda. We've been through boot camp, meaning that we've been, married and been through this before.
Yeah.
And there's certain things that we just, simply don't debate about. But the experience thing is what's important, is because in my first marriage, and this is my second one, but in my first marriage, the support wasn't there. I mean, so that makes it more difficult, okay, if you try to move together in life together. You've already agreed to team up.
Right.
Okay, and teams are supposed to stick together. And when you have one person that's not willing to do that, the team can fail.
It crumbles.
It crumbles.
It's
crumbles.
just not going to work.
And I might add, Brenda and I started out being friends. We didn't start dating since day one. because I think that the friendship piece was very important. We were working together, we were doing different things, and it graduated from there into a relationship, because you got to like somebody first, to me, as a friend. Okay, that's how it should start out, because if you could be a friend,
It's ideal,
it's ideal.
but it doesn't happen a lot.
Doesn't
I feel
happen.
like.
I get that.
So here's my question, and I love asking people this question.
Mm-hmm.
So, when you guys were, because I was interviewing a couple the other day, and I asked them the same thing because I get fascinated by this part. Okay, so you guys are friends. You first meet, you're friends. Does anybody have a physical attraction to the other at that point?
Oh,
I'll let Brenda answer that
Okay.
first.
I would say yes. He was a very handsome man. And so you're looking at the fact that...
He is a handsome man.
Oh.
Don't worry, I was going to comment on that. He was, you know.
He's gorgeous.
When I first met
As
him...
you can see, this is
Yes. He was handsome.
this is like George
He-
Clooney sitting right here.
He had a sense of humor, so he had a lot of things going for him. So there's always a physical attraction, I think, when you meet someone, whether you admit it or not. I think there's always a physical attraction.
Thank you for being honest.
Well, when I met her, she was wearing a red dress. I could tell you that I could see that dress in my mind right now. And the whole time I talked to her, well, I can't tell that on the air, but at any rate, she was very attractive when I first met. But again, I'm there because of a client referral, and I never cross the line.
Right,
in a
but
professional
here's the conversation, because like from Harry Met Sally, and yes, you guys had Harry Met Sally says the thing is that once you have sex, you can't go back to being friends. Or I don't even know, or he might even just say like men and women can't be friends in general. I'd have to go back and watch the movie.
Did you say once we had sex?
I think in Harry Met Sally, they say that once you have a relationship, you can't really truly be friends after that. But I think they also say that Harry is constantly saying men and women can't be friends because there's always that sexual component. There's always that attraction. So I like to just be honest with couples. Like, so you guys were friends, and obviously, clearly, they both were attracted to each other, but you were professional and it wasn't the right time. But I like that you admit that, like, yeah, you thought about it, right?
No, I didn't. We did not. For me, I did not think about the sex at that time. Look,
Not literally sex, but dating in the future, possibly.
Well, I don't know that I'm going to say that, because when we first met, again, in a business environment, you could look at somebody and say, hey, that's a very attractive person. But that doesn't mean necessarily at that moment in time, hey, that's somebody I want to get with at some particular time. That's not what it was. It was business, okay? And Brenda is a business professional. Let me tell you something. Some of our clients did not even know Brenda and I were married. And some of them found out, because we don't conduct ourselves that way.
I'll go one step further backwards. We had a client that I was in-house once a week. And I'd been there about a year, and I says, well, and Jim had been there and done seminars. He'd been there for consultation. And then all of a sudden I said, well, I'm going to be taking off because Jim and I are getting married. They go, what? No one knew, because in the environment of work, we're always professional. Even with our children at work, we're always professional.
Yeah, I mean, that's just how we conduct ourselves, and I think that's also what's important. So that wasn't on my radar. Yes, she was an attractive person. I was more attracted to the skill set that she had, and I needed some assistance with that, and she had it, and we talked. And that's why I said that's why I just started out as friends.
And it organically developed.
And it just organically developed from that standpoint. Because look, you can meet somebody, and to me, attractiveness is not the whole key to this.
Oh, there's so much more.
There's
obviously.
so much more, and that takes time, in my opinion, to develop. And you look at that. My first wife was totally the opposite. I mean, I'm in law school working a full-time job during the day, going to law school 4 or 5 nights a week, and she's upset I'm not spending more time with her. It's like, wait a second.
Of her, yeah.
Right. It's like, well, wait a minute. I'm trying to get us somewhere.
Yeah.
And
future,
Brenda is like I said, Brenda's the opposite. I mean, she's encouraging to do these things. Matter of fact, she's the one that set everything up with LA Talk Radio. That's how I got on there. And she set up what was a podcast that I did for what?
Right, for
whatever
couple
it was.
of years.
Yeah, so
Well,
she's behind the scenes person. She does a great job at it.
Just in general, and just for anybody out there who is contemplating getting divorced, or who's not happy in a relationship in general, or you're on your second marriage, it's so true that, and whether it's a boyfriend or a girlfriend situation, or you actually have to get married to realize these things, everybody's different, but I do believe that, sometimes if that's the story that's supposed to happen in your life, that you do have to have a relationship where it's what you don't want that helps you. It triggers it inside to help you and awakens for you to be able to realize this is what I do want because this is what I don't want. But it's all good. It's all growing and learning, and you guys met each other.
But you know what? We sat down and had the conversation before we decided to take a relationship to the next step, because we expressed ourselves. She may remember the conversation. We sat down and we talked about it. This is what I'd like to see in the next woman that I'm going to be with. Walk through life with. This is what I expect. This is what I don't expect. And basically, she said the same thing. And we had that conversation, and the things that we said that day, neither one of us have reneged on.
Wow.
Wouldn't you agree with that? This is what we want, and we both stuck to that.
And this is really good advice, once again, for people out there. Just really, so your advice is spell it out, communicate right from the beginning.
Talk is the key.
Use your voice.
There it is. The talking, communication, all of those things are important, and don't let things fester.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Okay, because that's the other part. Sometimes people don't speak up, and now it festers till it boils over, and then once it boils over, now it's out of control.
Yeah.
And I think that can be a problem.
And that brings me to its perfect timing for how do you, when you have conflict, when it comes up, how do you work through it? Do you have different styles? Have you had to compromise? And I know you don't have fights, but let's say there's a discussion, a disagreement.
Well, there's a couple. So couples have conflicts. I mean, I'm not going to say we never had a conflict, and I resolve those very easily. I just go ahead and agree with everything she wants, and then it works out great.
Every man in the world, follow this guy.
No,
well, he's open to talk after.
Go ahead.
Contact him.
I was going to say the one thing Jim focused on is never go to bed angry. So it's nothing that's going to be so critical that it can't be resolved.
I have a question. What would you say to couples who, because this happens, I hear this a lot, that say, okay, but sometimes I'm upset and it's not even worth it to talk about it because it doesn't change. It's the same thing. So what would you say? Would you say still work it out before you go to sleep? Or what if they say, I don't know if it's workoutable before I go to sleep because it never changes?
Well, there are also other things that we do. So let's say you're angry or you're upset about something, there's a disagreement, then don't stop the normal routine, such as if you leave the house, we kiss each other. So
even if you're mad.
Even if there's a disagreement. So that's a sign that it can be worked out because it hasn't broken the real foundation of your relationship.
And that's the key, because I believe that the people that don't last don't really have that strong, solid foundation, And so I love hearing, these are great tips, but even if there's somebody a couple who's not supposed to last, they could kiss before they go to sleep. They could do all the niceties, whatever, the sweet things.
The normal things that you would do on a daily basis.
They might not feel.
But you know what? There's some people out there that can't handle anger.
A lot of people, yeah.
Yeah, they can't handle it well. And it's the old thing about, well, if you're upset, go sleep in the other room. Me? I'm not going to go sleep in the other room. That's the
You're
first
gonna
thing.
cuddle.
Well, I don't know about that part. You may turn over and face a different wall, but we're not sleeping in a different room. But because I think is what happens sometimes, like Brenda mentions, we always kiss goodbye because you just never know. How many times has somebody left the house mad, now something happens, and you wish that you could have taken that moment back.
Yeah.
So we don't go down that path like that, because this is still not the absence of love. The love is still there. All right? It's just that for the moment, okay, we have a disagreement about something. But that should never, ever overshadow the love that two people have for each other. And if it does, then I don't think the love is truly there.
I agree.
And I think that's part of it too.
Now, he's a comedian. Not yet, but he should be a comedian. Do you use humor? Like, say she's upset. Like, is there something that you do to try to make her laugh, or you don't use humor at that point?
Well, let me just tell you something. Honestly, about Brenda, Brenda doesn't get upset that much. In all honesty,
I believe it.
I really don't have to be in a position where I have to tell Brenda a joke to bring her back. To be perfectly honest with you.
No, not necessarily a joke, but
No, not a joke. A sense of
Just-
humor about something.
yeah.
No, I understand what you're saying. No, I'm not that kind of stand-up comedian where, hey, guess what?
Knock,
you
knock.
know, knock, knock. You know, and all of that kind of stuff. It's not like that. We break the issue between us by maintaining our routine. Brenda said it earlier. So it's time for dinner. Okay, so I'm cooking. Hey, Brenda, time for dinner. Come on inside. You follow what I'm saying? She doesn't have to worry about me. Okay, yeah, it's over there. You know, why didn't you call me? It's not like that.
No.
Okay. So if you maintain,
go get some Taco Bell.
you know, hey, right? Oh, you wanted me to cook for you too after what you said? You know, well, no, it doesn't.
I like this. Maintain the routine.
You know,
Yeah.
So it's maintaining that routine, and I think some of this comes with age also. To be perfectly honest with you, you know, the younger people are out there. Everybody's drawing a line in the sand. So our message even today is not with the older people that are out there, because they should know by now. All right, the younger people.
they don't know.
I said they should.
Yeah.
Okay, I just
Yeah.
that they all do. Okay, but the younger people out there, you know, look, you know, life is short for all practical purposes, and you gotta, you know, you don't want to spend your time fighting and fussing with each other and arguing and all of that. It can be so counterproductive. But again, sometimes you don't learn this until the second go around.
Yeah.
You know, that's the
Yeah,
you know the sad part
exactly.
about it. But
Something that my parents do that I think is so endearing, and I just asked them recently what the song is. But so my parents, they just like you, they don't fight, they have conflicts once in a while. But when my mom is moderately upset a little bit at my dad has a song he sings to her. It's like a silly song, and it works every time. So that's why I was asking, you know, I love that story because she's like you know, where she's a very kind person and she doesn't want conflict and they get along so well. But you're also human, and once in a while you're gonna feel emotional about something.
I don't want the audience to think that we never have any type of disagreements. I don't want to.
No, I don't think they do.
Good,
They
because
understand.
we have
No, they
we have
understand.
issues.
But you don't need to yell and fight. You don't need to have the anger be heightened. And that's something that I try to inspire people with all the time.
It's once again, it's the sharing, it's the understanding, and once you understand the other person's weakness and things of that nature, you don't have to harp on it. You follow what I'm saying? And some people will do that. They'll dig
Yeah,
at them.
just love.
And I think
Yeah.
that just starts to chip away at the relationship. We don't do that.
Yeah.
Even on the way over here, we were talking about 24 years. Oh my God, it just doesn't seem that long.
Because the relationship is good.
Yeah, and time flies when you're having fun.
Exactly. My first relationship, it was 120 years, and kind of find out.
It was 4 months. So
You know.
something that's coming up, which I feel like is what you guys are talking about, is that sometimes, like with my husband and I, we'll just get into a discussion and I'll just kind of stop us and I'll say, okay, nobody's right and nobody's wrong. Because it's not about, well, you did this, you know, this is how I'm feeling.
We agree to disagree.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
yeah,
all. That's
and
all
but
that
that's
is.
the key. And I know you guys do that too. Like, there are just so many people. There are couples out there, and that's why I love having this wisdom-filled couple to share that like it's a waste of time. I forgot the word you used, but it's a waste of time to really get into it. To be like, like
It's counterproductive.
angry.
It doesn't. It just
Yes.
doesn't. It doesn't work. You know, you asked us about juggling. How do we juggle our private lives with the children? You know, we have 3 sons together. I have 2. She has 1, and they work for us and they do a really great job. And you know, so they've been with us so long with this, we really don't have to tell them their responsibilities and things of that nature. That works very well. We've got 5 grandchildren, and the same way that we treat the 3 sons is the same way we treat the grandchildren. And you know, being supportive of their goals. When these guys were playing sports, we were there. I mean, you know, typical parent thing, you know, and all of that. And now we got grandchildren playing sports, so we're there for them as well. That support mechanism, I think, is good for the entire family unit. When you're talking about people getting along with their kids and everything. If you got one spouse that's participating in the sports, that's not good. All right, because that means one spouse has the responsibility. We don't do it that way. It's both of us there with it. So not only can the kids see it, but it's also a bond between Brenda and I at that point as well.
Love that.
And one
So-
of the things that that I cherished was a statement made by Jim's oldest son when he mentioned, because my son is the oldest of all the three,
Okay.
and he said, "The one thing I love is that you gave me an older brother." So again, a
positive,
great
yeah.
blended family.
Yeah. People, I was just on a podcast in New York, and one of the topics that came up was divorce and kids. And my didn't even think about it, but what came out was everybody needs to honor themselves and be happy. I don't care how old you are. Children are resilient, and if the parents aren't happy in a relationship, they're not going to be a good parent. And so everything is meant to be, and divorce and couples, like blended families that do come together, it can be a very positive experience if you bring together all these ingredients of people that are just loving, and and of course there might be some exes, or sometimes there are people that you can't control how they're going to be, but if you can stay in your peace and your compassion for the whole situation, then it really can be beautiful.
I was shocked when Jim, as a deputy sheriff, would say that parents would bring their kids to the police station, to the sheriff's station, and leave them so that the other parent could pick them up because they couldn't be together. And you're going, how could you do that in front of your children?
I know, and that's
not be
their
able to
story.
just.
Yeah, it was amazing to me as a police officer with some of these things. When I went through my first marriage ended, the one thing that we agreed on a lot, we did not have a messy divorce, okay? Because I didn't believe in those things. She didn't believe in it. And I never missed a beat with my kids. Some people do, but I didn't. I stayed in their lives, and we never argued about seeing the kids and things of that nature. So, look, so if somebody out there is going to get a divorce, it's not worth fighting over these little things. It costs a lot of money, and the attorneys are the ones that are going to get all the money in the long run. You sit down and work it out, no matter how painful it is. Work it out.
And then move on.
And then move on.
Yeah.
But keep the kids, okay, in a positive manner by both, all right? And we were fortunate. Well, her son was a little bit older, so that wasn't really an issue. But mine was still basically under the age of 18. And, it could have sometimes some downsides to it because there's adjustments that have to be made, at that point. I remember one of my sons, when they came over to the house, Dad, why is Brenda out there watering dirt? Now let me explain what I mean by that. It's just that the house we bought is somewhat it's we sit on almost a half acre, and the other couple that was there before could not grow a lawn.
Yeah.
Couldn't do it. Now Brenda's got a green thumb. I already told you she's got looking like an arboretum. So they were looking at Dad. Why is she watering dirt? I said, look, is what she's doing, okay, is getting a lawn going, okay? And sure enough, that lawn now, fabulous, okay? So you got to make the adjustments sometimes with the kids, the new ones in your lives and things of that nature, but just be patient with it. That's the other thing.
That's a good one.
You got to be patient
Yeah.
with it.
So we need to wrap up, but one final question, and then I want you guys to tell people how they can contact you. Don't even think about your answer. What is the key to your successful relationship? And also, what is the key to a successful marriage, long-lasting marriage? Don't think about it. Just
Love and understanding.
love it.
I would say trust, compassion, love, understanding. Those are the things that really bind a relationship, I think.
Yeah, leave the jealousy out.
Yeah.
That's
because
true.
because that can hurt a relationship, in a heartbeat. I mean, I've known ladies way before I met Brenda that have always only just been friends. Brenda doesn't get upset about that. These are friends.
That's
This is
amazing.
what she meets them. Here they are. Blah 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 blah. We don't have any issues with that in our life. And so when she says the trust thing, hey, I do
Yeah.
a lot of traveling. She's back here sometimes by herself, and it's always been that way. So it's got to be the trust factor.
But also, you guys found each other, and you didn't settle. I don't know what your first relationships were, but that's the key. Like, the key is that when you have that, you can't even explain it sometimes, but that feeling and that bond that you came to this earth to be together, nothing on the outside can change that?
I'll tell you a quick story. I was working, and this young lady came up to me and said, "Why are you working so hard?" And this was when I was in my 40s. I said, "Well, I'm going to meet a young man who's been doing the same thing. We're going to get together, and we're going to live happily ever after." She started playing the violin. But I knew in my heart that I would meet that person. 11 years it took me, but I met him.
I was in your 30s, not your 40s. So unless you're telling me now that your age is different than what you told me. No, just kidding.
Oh, no. Rewind. Let's do the show again. Trust?
No, but yeah, I mean, she's always told me that story. She had a specific person she was looking for, and that's why she was single for that amount of time. And then one day it happened the same way she said it would. End of story.
You manifested him.
So there it was.
I love it. Okay, so how can people contact you guys if they want to reach out, get some inspiration, or if they have questions about your work?
Well, one thing I would do is encourage them to listen to the show on Sundays,
Yes.
LA Talk Radio, on this domestic terrorism thing. Because I'm telling you, I've got a lot of listeners, people calling from all over the country and ask me questions, how to be safe out there. There are a lot of shows that are archived that people can listen to.
Yes.
They can go to our website. Brenda, you want to tell them the website?
The website is Potts, A-N-D, Associates with an S.com.
It's Potts.
Correct.
And your name should be on the screen.
Right. And you could go to www.pottsandassociates.com and see all the different services that we offer, how to be able to reach us, et cetera. And we're
And
out
Jim
there
does the blog every Monday for business
to tell
owners
them how
and
to be careful
management.
with things and what to watch out for.
And I'm just going to offer this. I don't know if they would like to receive this, but they would. If you have any questions about their marriage, feel free.
Oh, yeah, so it doesn't matter. Look, people out there and everything, they have a question, that's fine.
They're a great mentor.
Especially about working together.
Feel free to reach out to them.
Send one to me. Hey, this is for Brenda. This is for Jim. So there's no problem with that. And, hey, we'll all work it together, all right?
Yes.
So,
thank you for joining us. And if you have any questions for me, www.therelationshipexpert.com, my Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, etc. is all on there. And thanks for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next week. And thank you guys for joining us.
our pleasure.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks.
You're listening to Love Talk Live with the relationship expert, Jaime Bronstein, only on LA Talk Radio.